Yes, welcome to what I hope is going to be another short edition of the No Stay Project. I really don't like doing these videos, but I'm going to do a, play Misty for me too, just so that there's less chance that anybody would be misled, misinformed by this obsessed YouTuber. And just for those, and I'm doing the screen video because, there's no editing. I can get it up there faster without wasting any more time than is necessary. But I figured just for those who may not have known why I called the video that, it has to do with, that's the name of the user. And it was a movie from 1971, and I realized people under the age of 55 may not remember this. But I thought it was appropriate because in the film, Clint Eastwood, Clint Eastwood plays the role of a radio disc jockey being stalked by an obsessed female fan. Now, I'm not saying that this YouTuber is an obsessed female fan, not a fan by any chance, but I certainly think the evidence strongly suggests that she is obsessed with my channel. And I think the evidence just here alone, good Lord, wow. She posts dozens of comments on every video. All my recent videos, practically every single one of them has comments from her. And she's very active during the live broadcast. So sometimes for hours. So the Saturday broadcast is a 3-hour broadcast. And she's constantly throwing out insults and pejorative statements such as calling Lysander. And I'll bring this up later, but she uses, just like her idol, she uses Spooner's name as an insult. Lysander Spooner, of course, being the great anarchist writer, best known for the No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority. And she uses it as an insult while calling me juvenile. Okay. So she did lie, which is what she typically does. And so before I get into this, and I'm going to break this, I'm going to go actually one sentence at a time and address each one, and she will continue to lie, because this is the reason why she doesn't come on the show. Because here you'll see, and I'll cover this again, you ignored the salient points in my comments. Well, first of all, kudos, Misty, for this, patting yourself on the back with using salient. Nice touch. So I'm going to give you 2 points for the use of a word that's not very common. So big on you for that, and the pat on the back you gave yourself there. This is her go-to thing and why she doesn't come on the show, because she just lies, saying that no matter how many times I respond to her, it doesn't matter. She just keeps saying I ignored her, and you don't get a chance. You cannot get away with that kind of crap on a one-on-one real-time discussion. And that's why she doesn't join me on the show, because I could call her out on the BS right there on the spot. But the opposite is true. She can call my BS out on the spot. If I really am spewing BS, she could call me out in real time, and there would be a permanent record of me humiliating myself. So she doesn't call because her main tactic. Well, if he addressed my point, I'm just going to lie. Yeah, I'm just going to lie. That's what she does. So I'm going to go through this crap again, one line at a time, or one sentence at a time, and she will continue to lie, as I predicted in the last video. So let's get to the actual article, and I tell you, the reason if you're going to critically analyze an organization, and I'm talking about whether their actions are fair or unfair. If you're going to level a legitimate, rational criticism about the organization, I don't think you should begin and end with their rules. And I used the mafia as an example, and maybe that wasn't good enough. Maybe that didn't make the point enough. That we cannot get a rational discussion, investigation, and determination on the actions of an organization by only using their rules. So the mafia has their own rules. And this killer, and he was a serial killer, a mass murderer, Carlo Gambino. And some of the rules that they have in the mafia is that it's okay to kill people if it's business. Not, okay, now we're not talking about self-defense. We're talking about just, whacking a competitor, okay? But selling drugs, that was frowned upon. It's okay to cheat on your wife, but it's not okay to cheat on your wife with one of the other maid guys' wife, okay? That's not good. So you can cheat on your wife as much as you want, as long as it's not with another maid guy's woman. That's when it. So you can. So the point here is, if you use just the organization's rules, they're going to be skewed heavily in their favor. So you're not going to get an accurate conclusion from the facts. So that's why your investigation can't focus on and just be narrowly construed within their rules. But apparently this example wasn't enough because she didn't think that this warranted any kind of consideration. Obviously, because we're talking about court cases and proceedings and government actions not being fair. So we're not going to measure them just by that organization's rules. So I figured, all right, let's look at the American government regarding slavery. We're talking about it was okay to own people as property, certain people. It was okay. It was legal. But it was the abolitionists, people like Lysander Spooner, who looked beyond, as a normal person should. A rational person will look beyond the organization's rules and say, no, owning people as property is abhorrent. That is horrible. They applied basic principles of right and wrong. Live honestly, injure no one, give every man his due. Or as these so-called Christians who own people as property do unto others, which is a pretty good principle. They didn't actually, live by it. So this was okay. So if we only look at slavery in the context of the organization's rules, this abhorrent, disgraceful, brutal treatment of other people would be okay. But we don't. You say this is barbaric, this never should have happened, because we're looking at it with rational secular ethics. We're looking at it with logic and reason, not the rules of the organization, which also excused and said it was okay to commit genocide. Yeah, genocide, wiping out races, several races of people, just wiping them out, trying to destroy their culture, which they damn near did. But that's okay. Again, if we just use this organization's rules, this is okay. Genocide is okay. We don't use their rules because it's skewed in their favor. It's not fair. Also, women, since this is presumably a woman, women were treated terribly for the longest time in the United States. They were not able to participate in the political process. But that was okay. Sexism against women is okay given their rules. Now, normal, rational people know sexism is not okay. But people like this YouTuber want to limit the investigation and the arguments and the conclusions to just the organization's rules. Let's go another step further. Let's look at Saudi Arabia. Are we going to honestly, does anybody think that an honest investigation, a rational investigation into the Saudi Arabian government, that we should only look at what they have set as rules? That we should only accept what their courts have said? I say, Abba Fangul. No, I think that's ridiculous. They kill people for being homosexual. They kill people for being homosexual on a regular basis. They behead people in the year 2019. They behead them. Torture is a regular process, or a regular thing in their legal process. It's a regular thing. It's a part of their legal process to flog people. It's 2019. They're still flogging people. They're still whipping people. They cut off hands. They butchered a man while he was alive last year, Jamal Khashoggi. And I'm supposed to just limit my examination of this government
to just their rules? Can you see how skewed this YouTubers how skewed their view of the world is? I know she's not arguing about Saudi Arabia, but the point is clear. We're going to critique the actions of a government, whether it's the United States, Canada, or Saudi Arabia, and we're not going to do it based on their rules because that's not fair, that's not rational. And when it came out in 2004 at the United Nations regarding Saudi Arabia being criticized over amputations and floggings it carries out under Sharia law, the Saudi delegation responded defending legal traditions held since the inception of Islam 1,400 years ago and rejected interference in its legal system. And that is pretty much, I think, the mindset of this obsessed YouTuber. We only examine the actions of the government through the lens of that particular government. It's not fair to judge the Saudi Arabian government off of the rules of the British government. It's not fair to judge the United States legal system based off of the rules of the Canadian justice, okay? It is fair, it is logical, and it is reasonable, and we should judge the actions of any government based on the principles of right and wrong, rational, secular ethics. Live honestly, injure no one, give every man his due. And to limit the argument because you don't want to do that, and she's got no logical argument as to why we should limit it. Look at this before I move on. My gosh, this is sick. In 2016, a Saudi man was sentenced to 2,000 lashes, 10 years in prison, and a fine for making tweets critical of Islam and denying the existence of God. So we're not supposed to use basic principles of logic and ethics. Do no harm. We're not supposed to apply that to this act of barbarism? Why? I reject that for all the reasons I just gave. It's not fair. You cannot get a fair description by doing that. You have to use an independent source of rules than the system that you're trying to critique. And there you go. He denied the existence of God in a tweet, and he was tortured and damn near killed, and he's spending 10 years in prison. But my critic here would have to say, well, it's legal. It's perfectly fine. You can't criticize the government that way. I'm not going to hear any discussion other than legal. I'm not going to hear that torture is wrong because it is not wrong under Saudi Arabian law. That's right. She constantly and obsessively posts on an anarchist channel and wants to limit the discussion on criticism of government actions to just government rules. No wonder she doesn't call in. Okay, so here, starting this line-by-line rebuttal. You call that a rebuttal? Yep, I absolutely do. I took your claims, your comment, and I broke them down, and I addressed every single one of them. I quote you directly, and I refute it. So, answer to your question, yes. You ignored the salient point of my comments. Gotta disagree with you there. I'm quoting and I'm addressing. Again, in great detail. So, and that's all through this. I quote you, and then I address what it is. Quote, address. You're lying. Instead, you disparage me and put up a misleading title to suit your narrative. I said you were a troll because you are. You are clearly lying that I am not addressing your arguments and that I am ignoring you. You are a liar. You are dishonest. And I've proven it over and over and over and over again. You disagree with me, but that doesn't mean that I ignored you. So if troll is disparaging, you earned it. You are insulting, you are dishonest, and you are misleading. And you refuse to confront me on the air, live in real time, because you know that you're dishonest. And you don't have the ability to just keep screaming or screeching that I'm ignoring you. A misleading title. Play Misty for me. No, I don't think that's misleading. It's part of the title, but I am being stalked by an obsessed female fan. Well, again, not fan. You're an obsessed commenter. That's for sure. And I did debunk the political question argument. I've done it. I do it all through this. I right here. This is just part of it. So, you're wrong, which, hey, you typically are wrong. Okay. First off, I wrote my comments. I didn't copy them from anyone. They are based on my research as my legal education trained me. You'll find I have included my sources. Well, yeah, here you did. Not that that's important. And this is really not an important point, but again, I'm addressing everything. So I quote, I did take a screen cap, and you can see in her comment there are quotes. And so it just led me to believe that she was quoting somebody else. So I'm not trying to mislead anybody. It's not even an important point. I said what's important is addressing the argument, not whoever made the argument. Secondly, you bounce between jurisdiction and applicability with your interpretation of Rule 602 thrown in. I'm not interpreting Rule 602. I'm just quoting it. I just like I did in the article, in the video. A witness may testify to a matter only if evidence is introduced sufficient to support a finding that the witness has personal knowledge of the matter. And I explain in the article what the matter is. The police officer or tax agent is alleging that the Constitution applies because they're alleging that the laws apply and I violated them. And I'm asking, and that's the matter. That is the matter. And so if that's the matter they're testifying to, that the laws apply and I violated them, they have to have personal knowledge. I'm not making it up and I'm not spinning it. That's what the law, that's what the rule says. As far as bouncing between jurisdiction and applicability, well, jurisdiction and applicability, the jurisdiction hinges on whether the Constitution is applicable. That's pretty straightforward. If the Constitution's not applicable, there's no jurisdiction. So that's why I do that. You will know I don't refer to philosophy. Yeah, I know. I never accused you of that. I talk about that here. Again, this is why she is considered an obsessive troll, because she keeps arguing the same false point that I know you didn't. I stated you put a new spin on his philosophy argument, not that you're arguing philosophy. So, once again, she is misleading here and just lying. It's funny or dishonest how you totally ignore the foundation of my comment, the legal principle, and the political question doctrine. I can't. I didn't. I address it directly right here, and I do it throughout the article. It's beyond. I do it right here, directly here. I'm quoting you about the political question, and here I respond. So the only thing that is funny is that anybody would take you seriously when you're so damn dishonest. All right, so what is it? The political question doctrine refers to disputes that courts determine are best resolved by the politically accountable branches of government, i.e. those elected to office. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, I have no, that's not even, we know that already. It's, don't know why, but she's just repeating herself there. Yeah, got it. Oh, and I never said that allegations of the prosecution, jurisdiction, or applicability were political. Well, that's exactly what you're getting to here. See, I quote you directly. I quote this obsessed YouTube troll directly. And I explain that I'm looking for the facts that the witness relied on. Now, typically what happens when we ask the police officer, did you determine on your own that just because I was physically in Arizona that your laws applied giving you jurisdiction and probable cause? They'll say yes. And when I ask for the facts that his allegation is based on, this is what happens. We get the artistic screech, objection calls for a legal conclusion, the witness is not competent to testify. So what she's trying to do here is obviously to mislead. They're saying the only applicability any court can recognize are the laws governing the applicability. Now, if that were true and actually relevant to this discussion, then we wouldn't get this objection when I ask for the facts. The Constitution applies just because I'm physically in Arizona. All they would do is say, well, sir, according to this YouTuber, the Supreme Court and lower courts have ruled consistently since 1915 that the application of traffic laws is a valid exercise of the state's police power, and they apply to everyone within the state's territory. That is Hendrick v. Maryland, 235 U.S., page 610. That is my evidence. Next question. They don't do that. If it actually was evidence, as she's claiming, okay, because applicability defined in a law is a legal issue the court can hear. But if you reject those laws as evidence, now if they're evidence, why isn't the police officer and the prosecution using them as evidence? Why are they not using it as evidence? Because they would never make that claim. That's stupid. That's why they object and say it calls for a legal conclusion, even though you're asking for facts. Now, why don't they say, and I'll go into a little more detail in a moment, but there calls of shame that I have where tax agents and other politicians have alleged that the evidence proving the Constitution applies, because the Constitution is the foundation, it is the supreme law. They say that the laws, the tax laws or the traffic code, that is the evidence proving the Constitution applies. But even they, when questioned, regardless of this YouTube troll's opinion that asking questions isn't effective, it damn sure is. Look at the success stories on markstevens.net to confirm. But when you question them on that and you say, excuse me, are you sure that's not backwards? Isn't the Constitution the authority for the tax law or the traffic code? And I said, well, yes. So if the Constitution is the evidence for the tax code, what evidence? Okay, and not the other way around. So you're wrong in your assertion that the tax laws give jurisdiction or apply in it, okay, or is evidence that the Constitution applies. So again, my question is, what facts do you have to support your claim that just because I'm physically in Arizona, your constitutional laws apply? Now, here she's saying, if I reject those laws as evidence, well, first of all, they're not evidence and they're not even being offered as evidence, okay? I've done this more than a few times. They are not offering the law, the code, the traffic code, a traffic, regulation or statute. They're not offering that as evidence that the Constitution applies, giving them personal and subject matter, giving the court personal and subject matter jurisdiction. They're not doing that. Or we've even had judges say that there wasn't evidence, that the whole purpose of the trial was to determine if there was evidence of personal and subject matter jurisdiction. So here she delves into mind reading. This is really dishonest. The court realizes you must be looking for evidence of applicability outside the legal system, which is the political level. No, we're looking for, as I wrote in the article and what I mentioned in the video, we're looking for the facts the witness who made the allegation relied on. We're not looking to go anywhere outside the legal system. We're talking specifically and only about what the police officer had in his head to lead him to believe that. Is he speculating? Is he a competent witness? Was he qualified to make that determination? Does it hold any water? She's just imagining that the court realizes you must be looking for evidence of applicability outside the legal system. She's imagining this. There's no reality to this. which is why it's so easily defeated. So let's get back. That was obfuscation. That was an obfuscation attempt by you. I got to give you another couple points for obfuscation, because being from Long Island, I could barely say that. But kudos to you for using another big word. No, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm directly addressing every single argument. You just don't like what I'm saying. But to say that I'm hiding from it and I'm ignoring you, no. Okay, so we'll get a little deeper into this. I just clearly made the distinction between motor vehicle laws that the cop, court, and prosecutor are bound to follow and the police power, and it is a political power which determines how and whom the laws apply. No one's... But the thing is, the police power is still... there's still jurisdiction. There still has to be jurisdiction to exercise the police power. And that power, to exercise the jurisdiction to exercise the police power is based 100% on the Constitution. So that's why I focus so much on that. So it's a different issue. The Supreme Court and lower courts have ruled consistently since 1915 that the application of traffic laws is a valid exercise of the state's police power, and they apply to everyone within the state's territory. Now, she's being very dishonest here because she'll say it twice, which is why I can say she's being dishonest. She's deliberately leaving something very, very important out here, and I'll get to that in just a second because she is going to repeat it. Therefore, for a successful challenge to the applicability of a traffic law, you would have to prove that a traffic law exceeds the state's police power and therefore not applicable. Well, as I actually showed in the original article, that you can show that they exceed the police power if you want to argue that as far as interstate commerce, but I wouldn't do that. We are not actually challenging the applicability of a particular traffic law. We're challenging the police officer's application, his argument, his allegation that the Constitution itself is applicable in any way, giving them jurisdiction to do an investigation and probable cause and whatnot. We're not talking about a particular traffic law. And why she keeps trying to inject that into the conversation is just dishonesty, or it's a lack of actually paying attention. Maybe she's so busy insulting people on my channel that she's not listening to what's actually being said. We're not challenging the applicability of a particular statute. We're challenging the assertion of jurisdiction, which is based on the Constitution applying. That's why I've said this thousands and thousands of times, and that's why when I do my call of shames, it's why I focus on that. So it's not one particular one. So even though it's irrelevant, and I've just demonstrated that, we get some more dishonesty. And in support of my position, I offer Supreme Court and other cases that hold the application of tax laws is an exercise of police power, and they apply to everyone within the state's territory. And as she quotes from Hendrick versus Maryland, certain parts of it, and none of them, I don't believe it actually says apply to everyone within the state's territory. It would be easy enough just to do a quick quick search. Apply. Whoa, I got to spell right. Apply to. Yeah, apply to everyone. That phrase is not even used in this case. So that's her interpretation. This idea that they apply to everyone within the state's territory. It's not in the case. That's her interpretation of what it says. So I'll just take the actual phrase and I'll plug it into a search, and it's not even in there. It's her interpretation of it. So, and here she accuses me of that. So let's first address the fact that this is dishonest, not just for the fact that she's assuming, or she's she thinks that's what it says. She's interpreting it. It's because she's missing a word here. It should say. The Supreme Court in other cases hold that the application of traffic laws is a exercise of the police power, and they apply to everyone within the state's territorial jurisdiction. And I think she deliberately left that off. because then she would have to defend and have to argue how they acquire territorial jurisdiction. And as I've said so many times, that's based on the Constitution, which goes, and now we're right back at first base. Why do I challenge the police officer's assertion that the Constitution applies? Now, she may parse things and say, well, they're not actually saying that. They're saying that the laws apply. Yeah, well, the Constitution is the supreme law. It is a law. And it is the foundation of their jurisdiction. And okay? So that's why she is being misleading and dishonest here by not saying that they apply to everyone within the state's territorial jurisdiction. So how do they get personal jurisdiction if the Constitution has to apply? If the Constitution doesn't apply, there is no jurisdiction. So, yeah. And you also have the issue is how can a court opinion from 1915 settle a question of fact in 2019? And that's the thing for those who may not understand how this so-called justice system works. They can use what's called stare decisis, and which is prior opinions from the Supreme Court or an appellate court to settle an issue of law. And that has to do with what the law actually says and requires. It doesn't talk about necessarily application, except for what the statute says it applies to, let's say interstate commerce or firearms. But as far as jurisdiction over the person, that is determined by whether the Constitution applies, because that is the source, again, of all their statutes. That's the basis for all that. So you can't use stare decisis to settle a question of fact. Now, she can argue that it's not a question of fact, and I've addressed that hundreds and hundreds of times. It is. They're making a legal determination on the side of the street, and they have to, and that requires them to have personal knowledge when they testify about it in court, and they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Quoting the court case, again, if you ask the police officer what facts led you to believe, or did you base your determination on that the laws apply just because I'm physically in Arizona, and he comes back and says, well, the Supreme Court and lower courts have ruled consistently since 1915. I mean, come on. They're not going to say that. That's not an answer to the question. So she goes here and then just cites that particular case. So I don't have to, I've already addressed that, so I don't have to do that again. So I've now gone through a second time and addressed every single sentence in her, in here. I've addressed every single one. I don't think for a second she's going to be suddenly, oh my gosh, honest. And after all these times of falsely accusing me of not, of ignoring her, that suddenly she's going to change her tune. This is YouTube. YouTube comments are usually cancer. Okay, there's memes about that. So I'm not. We can't expect any honesty from this obsessed YouTuber. But I've now gone through and addressed every single sentence, and I've taken more than enough time. I've been very clear about that. Anyone who disagrees, you can also review the article and the video, this prior video that I did, and you can make up your own mind. Am I ignoring it? Well, there's two issues. Am I ignoring it, and am I and if I'm not ignoring it, am I addressing the issues appropriately, and have I shown at least a valid counter argument against what this YouTuber is putting forth? But I don't expect that she's ever going to call, because again, she does not get to accuse me of ignoring her salient points. No, and if you've disagreed with anything I presented in the video, you're more than welcome to call into a live broadcast. But this comes down to, like I mentioned before in the article, that again, this was not addressed, but it really came down to if applicability is a political question, the courts cannot hear arguments the laws apply, and there's personal and subject matter jurisdiction. Or two, the prosecution is not raising a political issue, but making a legal claim, and they need evidence to prove it's true. And I think this hinges on this ridiculous notion that a court case from 1915 operates as evidence. No. And if that's true, let the witness on cross-examination actually try to pull that. Let's see a witness actually do that. If it in fact is evidence of that claim, Let them present it on cross-examination. Have them present it. But, but then again, they're open to cross-examination to explaining how a court opinion actually proves the Constitution applies today, which, again, would probably generate this. They can't decide whether it's a political issue, a legal conclusion, or it's philosophy. Hey, again, if you do disagree with what I presented here today, you're more than welcome to call into a library.